are in for another exciting show. We are down here at our left wing. The sun is out, the penguins are out, and we are so excited to bring all the action live to you guys. Hello, my name is Danelle. Behind the camera again we have Igor, and we are in for a good show. So when you're ready, let's have a look at our African penguins. So as you can see, it's been a bit of a windy week. Today, the same as all the other days. We have quite a bit of wind, but today it actually switched to an offshore wind, meaning it blew from the land onto the sea. That is why our ocean looks misleading. It looks quite flat, but there's still quite a bit of a wind. At least the sun is out. Our penguins are all out. They are soaking up all the little bit of sun that they can. You can see most of them are lying on their white bellies with their black backs faced towards the sun. So that helps them absorb a little extra heat. Great for a cold little winter's day like today. Almost looks like they're having one giant cuddle puddle on that rock over there. So many of our African penguins. So as you guys know, we are down here at the Stony Point Penguin Colony located in Betty's Bay, just outside of the beautiful city of Cape Town. It is one of those rare spots when you can see penguins on your doorstep and have the opportunity to interact with these birds in their natural habitat. How incredible. It's one of 2 penguin colonies on the African continent. So we have this colony right here, and then Boulders Beach towards Simonstown. For today's show, we really love it for you guys to participate with us. So if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to send them in. You can log onto our website or just scan the QR code on the screen and pop through any questions and comments that you might have. We want the show to be as interactive as possible, so ask all your questions. On today's show, since this is a Sunday, we want to test your naturalist brains. We want to make sure you've been paying attention to some of the shows over this last week. So we're going to throw in some fun quizzes for you guys. I saw a little penguin tail shake. I think that penguin is excited for all the quizzes. Before we start off our first quiz, what we're going to do is we're going to throw it on over to the weatherman, and we're going to ask him what the weather's looking like in Betty's Bay for today. Thank you so much for that update. As you guys can see, beautiful winter's day right here in Cape Town. A little bit frosty, but at least we have the sun. So to get you guys started, I'm going to ask and test those naturalist brains out. We mentioned this earlier on during the week on the show. So our first question is, what was the African penguin called before it was renamed? So as we know, our African penguins, they were renamed to be called the African penguin in the late 1970s when the first penguins walked on the South African shoreline, made their little home here in Betty's Bay at Boulders Beach. Before then, they were all found little island colonies scattered all around South Africa. To make things a bit easier, they were named this because of the very loud noise that they make. Mandy, you were saying the weather looks amazing and that you wish you were here. Ah, the weather truly is incredible. We are spoiled here in South Africa by having such great winter days. If you do ever find yourself down here, I think you'd have a great time being able to witness these little penguins in their natural habitat. While we wait for your answers on that little question, what was the African penguin named before it was renamed? We have a little appearance from one of our families, our gold family. Igor, would you like to show the people our goldz? So these, oh my goodness. It seemed something behind the bush just startled them, and very quickly they all just shot up. But how cute. You guys can see that these Egyptian goose goslings are getting bigger and bigger by the day. Wow. I think that's incredible. We've seen generations of these birds grow up on the show. We've had Karen and Stephen, our browns. We've had kids, their kids had kids, and now their kids are having kids, which is our goldz. Ursula, you say you're excited to be seeing our gold family. I am always happy when we get to see these birds. These little goslings get bigger and bigger by the day, which is just insane. Right now, we have either mom or dad in the water with them. And we have a correct answer from our viewers. So Lyra, you said that the African penguin used to be called the jackass penguin, and you are correct. Thank you so much for popping in that response to us. So they were named the jackass penguin because of their loud donkey-like brain noise that they make. So even though these birds are cute and cuddly, they are very, very noisy. It's always great to see those birds. I see they are making their way out. They are behind the rock over there. Always good to check in on these birds. Just the most adorable little birds indeed. So it's hard to tell the difference between a male and a female Egyptian geese. You can only truly tell when the male and female are standing next to each other. Their coloration is the same, but the males are always a bit bigger. Justin, thanks for commenting in and for watching today's show. You are saying that you love the sights and sounds down here at Penguin Beach, and I can't agree with you more. From the calm ocean waves crashing on the shoreline, we can hear our penguins, we can hear our geese honking in the back. Just truly incredible. while we're spending some time with our Egyptian geese. I want to tell you guys some facts about these really cool birds. So, despite the name goose, you might have mentioned on the show before that they are in fact ducks and not geese. They are native to the southern part of Africa and the Sahara, but can be found very widely spread across the world. Their conservation status is of least concern, so we know that our African penguins, since 2010, they have been listed as endangered on the IUCN's Red List. But the Egyptian goose population is doing quite well at the moment. They're actually on the increase. They are finding all types of new homes and territories. In Cape Town, I've seen them live everywhere, from underneath bridges, in little canals, on top of really high buildings. And it suits their diet, because Egyptian geese has a very wide omnivorous diet. Being an omnivore, it means it eats both plant and animals. So if you are a herbivore, your diet's going to be mainly plants, everything from twigs, grasses, shrubs. If you are carnivore, you eat meat, and then your Egyptian geese, being omnivores, eat a very wide diet. Ariella, you want to know what predators are goldz needing to be protected from? That is such a great question. Thank you so much for asking. So right down here at Stony Point, I would say their biggest predator is just the ones coming from land. So they are quite protected here, but every now and again you might have an animal like a caracal or Cape leopard that come down from the mountains onto the beach. That is very rare though, because between the mountain and the beach at Betty's Bay there are a lot of houses, and the human settlements and houses provide a perfect little barrier that keeps a lot of the predators on the mountains. There might be the odd dog roaming around that might be a threat, or a domestic cat. I think their biggest predator is us as humans, actually. We find them a lot up on the roads, in the parking lots, cars, motor vehicles, bikes. All these things are threats, as well as just what we leave behind on our beaches. A lot of plastic that gets left behind. Sometimes they can get entangled in that, or mistake it for food and end up eating it, which is really not good for them. So that is it for that, Ariel. I hope I've been able to answer your question. You can see these goldz are having a great time. One of my favorite facts actually about Egyptian geese is they do look very pretty, and today they're quite a common sight. But in ancient Egypt, these birds were actually considered sacred. And if you go around looking in tombs, there are all these hieroglyphs actually showing pictures of Egyptian geese. I think that is quite cool.
There is a great proverb that has been passed down from generation to generation across the plains of Africa. Until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Join WildEarth for a special lion safari on the 10th of August, broadcast to you live in celebration of World Lion Day. Witness the pride and joy of Juma, the Nkumas, the Talamatis, and the Avoca males who come roaring to your screens to tell you their story.
Here on WildEarth, we love it when you interact with our guides while they are live. In order to do this, you must head over to wildearth.tv/questions and submit your questions, comments, and suggestions. Simple as that. And to make it even simpler, from time to time, you will see a QR code on your screen. Open your camera phone and scan this code, and it will take you straight to where you need to be. We look forward to answering your questions on this channel.
We are just watching this little group of penguins come out of the water. I have a good feeling that they just came back from a little forage out at sea. So for them, they travel kilometers and kilometers offshore to go forage for small oily fish, mainly sardines and anchovies. That is their all-time favorite meal. They are very dense and rich in oils and energy, which help keep our penguins in tip-top shape. Penguins are, especially our African penguin, they also do eat small crustaceans like krill, but they don't contain as much nutrients in for them. They've also been seen to eat squid, but since squid is a very deep living animal, it requires a really deep dive for them to be able to get to them. So not their ideal prey, but there's not a lot of fish around. They can target things like small little crustaceans like krill, shrimp, and then that squid. So for African penguins, the deepest dive of an African penguin has been recorded to about 130 meters deep, which is insanely deep. Earlier on this week, we were talking about breath holds. Igor was asking me about my breath hold, and I felt very ashamed that a penguin can out breath hold me. But for our next little quiz, to make sure you guys are still with us, we want to ask you if you can remember, or if you do know, how long can an African penguin hold their breath for? Please send in those answers to us. Igor already sent his guess in, and he was actually correct. I'm very surprised that Igor does listen on the show. What an incredible sight. Oh, look at this little bird we're spotting here in front of us. You can see he's really struggling against the wind. There he goes. Oh. Onto the pole, giving us quite a good display. So we have our pied kingfisher. He just took off again. Igor, you're doing a great job. Are you still able to track him?
Sort of.
It's very unpredictable with this wind. Because as soon as he's... Ooh, he just... Did you see that? Betty, you were saying that you didn't know you see these kingfishers by the ocean. Ah, they live in the little flays around, and every now and again they venture to the ocean, and this one is having an absolute blast of a time. He is doing small, short, shallow little dives into the shallows.
Oh, you got two. Look.
Right now, he got two fish right there. Looks like small little mullet just in the shallows. What an incredible display from this pied kingfisher. You can see why they're called kingfishers. They do fish for small little birds. What a sight indeed. So this particular species of kingfisher is widely distributed all over Africa. And if I'm not mistaken, it was actually first discovered by Carl Linnaeus. So if anybody recognizes that name from their high school biology lesson, he was the father of taxonomy. if you've heard of genus, species names, he also wanted to develop that system. And he called this little bird the Cerral rudis. So we asked you guys a bit earlier, how long do you think a penguin can hold its breath for? And we have our first two answers. We have Robin saying 7 and Henry saying 5 minutes. You guys are very close, but we have one correct answer, and that correct answer is 5 minutes. So well done. I absolutely love that you guys are getting all these questions right. And our pied kingfisher just shoots next to us again. Beautiful. So you normally find them around lakes, rivers, where they fish. Just like we saw this one fish right now, it does these very shallow little dives just under the surface when it sees a small fish. Their populations are also very healthy, and if I'm not mistaken, they are also listed as of least concern on the IUCN's conservation list. We have a question from Braden. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching us on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. So you want to know if seals can eat penguin eggs? That is a great question. So to answer that question, so seals, they do eat penguins, but it is very difficult for a seal. Igor, do you want to show us the terrain around here, how rocky it is? So there's a lot of sharp, jagged rocks along, and for our seals, they aren't the best of walkers when it comes to walking on land. They are great in the water, they are great when swimming, but quite awkward on land. So for them to be able to get to a penguin nest or burrow, they have to walk quite far. And it's just not worth it spending that amount of energy to go to the nest and try and get the eggs. They also prefer a fatter diet. So with our penguins, they have quite a nice fatty insulating layer, which gives our seals a lot of energy when they eat that. So they would rather go for an adult penguin compared to an egg. Okay, smile and wave, boys. Look what we have here waddling right here in front of us. So they've been waddling from the little spot on the rocks on the left, and they are making their way across the beach to rejoin their other African penguin friends. Earlier this week we had a really cool discussion and some really cool comments and questions from you guys, and we chatted about how penguins are actually better than people in a lot of different ways. Leslie, you saying they're walking with some swag, and I completely agree with you. So this little waddle they do by moving side to side actually helps them walk in a super energy efficient way. So people, when we walk, we actually lift our knee up and put it back down again. So there's a lot of bending, a lot of energy expense in that motion. if you see this guy walking straight towards us, he's not even lifting his feet off the ground. He's simply just swaying his little penguin hips side to side, waddling along. So penguins are 20% more efficient at walking than people, which is crazy. This allows them to, when they go through long periods of fasting, be able to still have enough energy to go back in the ocean and go forage for food. We also had a great look at their bellies. These two have quite spotty bellies, although we're now looking at their backs. And for penguins, an interesting fact is that they have very unique belly spot patterns. So as each human has a unique fingerprint, you can think of the bellies of African penguins as being their fingerprint, because no two penguins have the same spots on their bellies. I love that fact. Arctic Circle, you want me to please say the Latin name for an African penguin. I've said this many times in the show, and I think you guys who have been watching for a while, you know how big of a nerd I am when it comes to Latin names. But for our African penguin, it is Spiniscus demursus. So that refers to the shape of our penguins. Have quite a spindle or rugby ball like body structure.
We want to make it even easier for you to interact with our guides whilst watching WildEarth. When you see a QR code like this pop up on your screen, then open your phone camera, point it at the code, and you will be taken directly to our question page. Simple as that. Then you can let us know what you want to see, ask questions, and much more.
I've had it before where I've been walking and a waterbuck's jumped out of the grass. It's quite a frightening experience.
WildEarth. It's in your
It's a big head scratcher. I've been going over all these species in my head. So if you guys have any thoughts and suggestions on who this skull belongs to, feel free to go on over to our website or just scan the QR code at the bottom of your screen and let us know. Maybe you can teach us a thing or two today. Who does this mystery skull belong to? We are just over halfway on our show. Igor, how do you feel about taking a little bit of a beach walk? Yeah, Igor says he's game. So just with finding this very interesting little skull, I have a feeling there's so many other treasures around that is just waiting to be discovered. While we take a very short stroll along the coast, we're going to be doing some beach combing, looking out for any small little objects we can find. As a kid, I used to love going down to the seashore on holiday once a year, spending time looking at all the small little shells, all the other very interesting objects you can find. And because this wind has been blowing so strong, we've been having that ridiculous southeaster blowing, so windy. It's been coming onshore, so straight from the shore, from the ocean onto the land, and it's been washing up some very interesting finds. So we're going to take a walk and see what we can see. We have some egrets. That is very interesting. We always love having our egrets on the show. So if you guys can have a look on this area, there's so much washed up beach kelp with all these little bits and pieces in between. This is really where you want to be walking if you are doing something like beachcombing. So we're going to be looking at a couple of different shells. So that's a big thing you can find when you are beachcombing. Alright, so I found a couple of shells here. So with these guys, we have 2 limpets and we have 2 top shells. So our limpets right here. This is actually very cool because you can see on this one limpet there's a very tiny little hole drilled into it. This one is probably just from normal wear and tear, breaking, being washed on the rocks, but this limpet we can actually determine its cause of death. Ooh. So there's another animal around called a whelk, and we were lucky enough to see some whelks 2-3 days ago on the show when we went foraging around the rocky shores. So a whelk has a small little, basically a tooth, that it uses to drill into shells like limpets. So it's like a little harpoon. Once it shoots that harpoon in, it releases an enzyme. That enzyme dissolves the shell, and then it basically just slurps out the little snail on the inside, like you would through a straw. And that is where that little hole came from. Very interesting. It's like doing an autopsy on a seashell.
Hold it up to the light so I can see them all.
I can. You can see it probably better from this side. Ooh, Bush Love, you're asking a great question. You want to know if we ever come across nautilus shells. So we have one species of nautilus we get quite often here in the Cape. It is the paper nautilus, and every now and again, mostly around False Bay, so between Muizenberg and Fishhook, if there's a very strong southeast that's been blowing for a couple of days and the water conditions are just right, we have some nautilus shells wash up. It's amazing. I've seen tons of them around Cape Point. I've not yet picked up one in Betty's Bay, but I don't see why they won't wash up here. So yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. As we're going to carry along walking, I found another really cool gem. It's a little bit broken. There we go. This is something you guys have probably seen quite a lot. So this belongs to squids and cuttlefish. So, as we know, cuttlefish and squid belong to the family Cephalopod. So they're related to our octopus. What makes them a little bit different is have this internal shell structure. So they are gastropods. So in the greater scheme of things, you can think of them being related to snails, limpets, any other type of marine mollusk. Their shell is just on the inside. Very cool. They are internal and they help with the buoyancy. So these cuttlefish and squid, they're all pelagic. So that helps them just keep them, maintain their buoyancy in the water column. We're going to take a walk, see what else we can find. While we are walking along, we have 2 guesses for that skull that we found earlier. So our mystery skull. We have Lyra saying she thinks it might belong to a sunbird, and we have Donna saying she thinks it might belong to a cormorant. So as we mentioned, we don't think it was a cormorant, just looking at the beak. But a sunbird is actually quite an interesting one. Igor, any guesses on that? Igor's mentioning he thinks it's a bit too big for a sunbird. I also have that suspicion, but by the beak shape, definitely I think it might be more one of your fynbos bird species rather than an oceanic bird. It's also really, really thin, so that's such a good guess. If you guys have any more, please feel free to comment in, let us know. We need to solve this mystery. RC, you are guessing a tern skull, but you're saying swift or sandwich tern. Those definitely are 2 most common tern species we do find here at Stony Point. And I think that might be a really excellent guess. As I say, I'm unable to confirm, but by looking at the size, the beak shape, it might possibly be a tern. RC, thank you so much for commenting in and letting us know. That is an absolutely great guess. We might have a mystery solved. We're just walking along now, trying to see what all the cool things we can find. And we found some bones.
We know that there's nothing worse than just as your favorite leopard is about to catch his first meal in 3 days, you are on the edge of your seat and up pops an advert. But we want to let you know that we hear you. You can watch WildEarth without the ads. Sign up to be an explorer and watch the channel on the WildEarth website completely ad-free. Head over to our Explorer page to find out more.
This bone, on the other hand, I think might belong to one of our penguins. It's hard to determine where this bone fits in, but I'm pretty sure it might have to do with this little leg. You can see a little joint right here. Maybe it's a little femur, but it is a solid bone. It's quite a bit of a weight difference between the 2 as well. Easy to see why a penguin would be too heavy to fly. I think that's a really great find. Cool comparison to actually see the 2 different bones compared side to side. Alrighty then. Look at all these cool things we're finding when beachcombing. You never know what to expect. It is all the detail in the small things. Clara, thank you so much for asking. You actually want to know from me what fascinates me the most about the ocean. I think That is a great question, and one I can go on talking and nerding out about for hours and hours. But to sum it up just shortly, the thing that fascinates me the most about the ocean is that this water body covers 70% of our planet, yet we've only discovered 5% of it. There's so much mystery in the ocean, and every single time I go in the ocean, I go free dive, scuba dive, I spend time, I always see something new, I discover something new, and it's just crazy. You never know what you're going to find in the ocean. It is beautiful, it is unpredictable, it is mysterious, and whenever I spend time of it, I just feel free, and I just want to explore all of it. So that's pretty much what fascinates me the most, the fact that we know there's so much left to explore. It is completely uncharted territory, and there can be anything in the ocean, from mermaids to whales with unicorn horns, which is called narwhals, and I just noticed I said that and they already exist. But there can be the coolest things that we don't even know. They've been discovering cures for cancer. They have been looking at using shark genetics to modify cures for COVID. Insane, the potential in the ocean. And I'm done nerding out, and we're gonna continue beachcombing. But thank you so much for that question. The ocean, very unpredictable, just like beachcombing. One thing we also looked at that I always find quite interesting is just spending. There's a lot of bugs. I did not expect that. So all these bugs you guys see just jumping everywhere are called kelp hoppers. So for two reasons: one, they live on kelp; two, they hop. Yes. Just to clarify that. Got a mini heart attack. I am not going to break open that kelp because there's going to be a lot of bugs escaping from it. But I'm going to see if I can find a different little piece of kelp with hopefully less bugs on. I'm a big ocean human, guys. I love sharks. I love fish. I don't like bugs. There's just bugs everywhere.
Danny, that one won't have bugs under it.
Ilomi, you saying he also jumped? I'm glad I'm not the only one who's not the biggest bug fan. Igor's like pointing at all the ones, but like all the ones
That one won't have bugs under it.
Which one, Igor? This one?
No, that yeah, to your right.
I just picked it up.
No, the one to the right of that.
This one?
Yes.
Hey!
No, the big one. The whole
Oh, Igor wants me to pick up the big one. That's a lot of bugs. Okay, Igor, you are mean. But I did end up finding one with not a lot of bugs on it. I think it's a good spot. Bugs have seemed to left. So kelp is very cool because they are a type of marine algae, but they are macroalgae. And with this macroalgae, we can see all its structures. They are not like our plants we have on land. So the plants we have on land all have little vascular root structures. So their roots, they use to anchor themselves in the ground, but also take up all the nutrients from underneath. They absorb water through their roots, they absorb nutrients through their roots. Kelp, they don't do the same. They have something called a holdfast, which is the structure right here. And they use it to hold fast onto rocks. Basically, in short. So they don't use this like roots to take up nutrients. It's only to anchor themselves. And when it's really windy, it's very stormy, surgy, they tend to get detached, which is why you see so much kelp on the shoreline after big strong winds. Their root structure is home to so many different types of little animals, and there's been a record of over 1,500 single individual organisms found on one single piece of kelp. So from this little holdfast to the stipe, and then up top you would get it go splits into blades, and the blades have floats which keeps it floating at the surface and doing that cool wavy thing as you guys can see out there in the back. So that's all kelp. Kelp is a brown algae. There's not too much to see within this little holdfast, but if you have a nice big one you can break it open and you'll sometimes find the coolest life. Nicholas, you want to know what kelp hoppers are? They are like flies. So they are small little bugs, and they are related to the arthropod family. Very nasty looking things in my opinion, but each to their own. Oh. Getting all the shots there, Igor. Igor's getting a great little close-up. I think you should do that once more, Igor. You're gonna find a nice one for us.
Yeah. Actually, wait, this.
Should I pick one up? You have a good angle there. Do you want me to hold the camera? Ah, nice. So it looks like normal sand, but as soon as you move your hand, you can just see all of them moving. And they, oh, Igor! I think I could just leave Igor here for the remainder of the show, guys. He's having the best time. I mean, you can just look out over the kelp and you see so many. So Tasha, you want to know if these guys bite. So like all bugs, they do have the ability to bite, and if you do spend a long time and allow them to actually bite, it's just a little bit itchy, but nothing too serious. So with these guys, sandhoppers, they are a little type of crustacean. They are very, very small, and normally during the day, they spend a lot of the time burrowed underneath kelp, underneath the sand. So that is why when Igor moves his hand, so many of them just hop up, because during the day they don't like being too active. They are most common between the first 5 and 10 centimeters of the sand, and during the night is really when they come out to come feed. I've been walking along the shores at Cape Point, and the beach would be crawling with these guys. So all of them would go from the sand onto the kelp, and that is what they feed. They feed on decaying seaweed.
Would you like to have your finger on the pulse of WildEarth? Are you curious about what happens behind the scenes? And would you like a catch-up on the best moments from the week, delivered straight to your inbox?
How cool is this? And oops, don't lose it.
Then it's time to join the Explorers Club and receive the weekly newsletter. Head over to our website to find out more.
Okay, I think we have given these little Ooh. So we just had a thing. So if we do say that these little animals are related to prawns and crabs because they are crustacean, I wonder what they taste like. They are definitely edible because we have seen birds eat them. Eagle, would you like to have a taste test for us?
I would actually love to have a taste test. Did you bring your EpiPen?
Do you want to? Okay.
No. Did you bring an EpiPen?
I did not bring an EpiPen.
Okay, cool. Because I'm allergic to prawns and crayfish.
Aww.
So if you have an EpiPen, I'll totally try.
Darn it. So unfortunately, Igor's making up an excuse and saying he's allergic to shellfish. I think Igor's lying. I think he's not allergic to shellfish, but I'm not going to risk it. So, for now, we actually found this really cool piece of holdfast from our kelp. And you can see on the inside, there's all these very intricate little tunnels and holes and structures. There's so many bugs on here. Igor. Ah, great. Thank you, Igor. I'm letting him hold the bugs. So that is all just what is on the inside. So kelp is all hollow. So that big stipe that we see, so if we look at these guys, we can see that kelp is hollow on the inside.
I really don't like bugs.
I clearly don't. But stipe is hollow, the roots are hollow, and that is all just one nice way for all the water to move up and down. Because being an algae, it gets its nutrients not from the holdfast. So we did say that plants on land get them from the roots. They still need to get nutrients somehow, but they actually absorb it through their cell walls. So the blaze, the stipe, everything helps to absorb nutrients it gets from the water column. Pretty cool. Kelp is a really cool, handy seaweed, and it's used for a variety of different products. You might not even know that you have had kelp in your life before. We have a question. Blake, you want to know if hippos would survive by the beach? I can tell you they do indeed. Maybe not here in Cape Town, but there's actually a population of hippos in Sodwana Bay, in the Isi Mangaliso wetland parks that live in the little estuary, and they often see them hop over the sand dunes between the ocean and the little estuary. So yes, hippos can. Blake, thanks so much for sending in that question. We were on the topic of kelp and how 95% of us have actually had kelp in our lives before, whether we know it or not. So kelp they use to extract a little reacting agent called an emulsifier, and that's basically a fancy word for just a thickening agent. So they use it in ice cream, toothpaste, and some other gelatinous products that just need to be a little bit thickened. So if you brush your teeth, chances are you've ingested kelp before. Yeah, very cool. They also harvest kelp, and they use kelp as fertilizers, which is quite cool. Kelp is one of the fastest growing plants in the world. Igor is pointing. What are you pointing at for us?
2-3 minutes rockers.
Actually, I found some things I want to talk about. So in between our beautiful little like rocky shore ecosystem, a big issue that animals is facing is plastic pollution. So we had a question earlier about what the biggest threat are to animals like our Egyptian geese and our penguins, and sadly it's us. So just on this little small stretch, we are finding legit like string, lollipop sucker sticks, we're finding plastic straws, all these things that end up on our beaches that harm our marine life. So plastic straws are really bad. Animals can ingest them, they can get stuck in their throats, they can give them the false sense of being full in their stomachs. So things like rope is very bad because this can actually get So it can actually get entangled, which is quite bad. So be careful where we put our trash, guys. It is always good to use as little plastic products as possible where we can. We try and avoid plastic. And then if we do use instead of eating lollipop sticks where the stick is made of plastic, you can have lollipop sticks made of paper. Nowadays you get paper straws, you can bring your own reusable straw. Another great thing, especially when it comes to things like bottle rings, that goes around milk bottles. If you have ropes that are circular, you can just simply cut it and that avoids entanglement with animals. So this has been very cool. I think it's been such a great show. We have been seeing so much action. I don't know, do you want to?
You want to play a quick game?
Yes, Igor?
Just to show how much like plastic pollution there actually is. Put that, like, you can give that to me. I'll put that in my pocket. And then I'm going to count to 10. And
Nikki, you were saying it's been such an informative show. Thank you for tuning in, and yeah, I think it's been so great. Thanks for watching. Igor wants to play a quick little game, the last minute.
Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to pick up as much plastic trash as you can.
Ooh.
To see how much there actually is. This is a marine protected area and a nature reserve.
Okay, so just quickly repeat. Igor is going to give us a 10-second count to just pick up as much plastic as we can. This is a marine protected area, so it's going to be interesting to see what we can find. Okay, ready, go.
3, 2, 1, go. 1,
Ah!
2, 3.
Of course, Igor picked the spot with the most amount of bugs. Okay, I was a big failure. I just didn't want to like dig my hands in the bugs. But what I ended up finding was I found some rope, more rope, pieces of plastic, and that's in 10 seconds.
Oh, actually, now that
And now we're standing, more stuff. So, thank you guys so much for having me. It has been such a fantastic show. Today is my last day. Thank you for having me join you for this week. It was Kids Week on WildEarth, and it was great having everybody watch and just sending so many rad and amazing questions. It was great being here. I'm gonna miss these penguins so much, but thank you all. Show's back on tomorrow again, same time, same place. That is it for me. Bye guys. My name is Danelle. This was great. We had Igor behind the camera. Wishing you all the best for your Sunday.
Advised. Good afternoon.